today we're coming at you with Someday We'll Be Together.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was afraid for a minute.
Oh, this
Diana
classic.
Ross and the Supremes.
Yes. If ever there were a perfect song, here you go.
I think this is the perfect song, Ken. And I think it might be the greatest song of the 1960s.
Yeah, I can't even argue.
I think this is my number one.
I would even say other great songwriters of the 60s would probably even say this song would be better than what they wrote.
Now let's give some background here. I'm a huge Beatles fan. A huge Beatles fan.
Yes.
You know this.
This is a fact.
You know, any of my friends, they'll tell you I was the one who was forcing people to listen to the Beatles in the car, wherever possible.
Yeah.
We were listening to the Beatles.
You helped expose me to the Beatles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because you've said it in the past. You didn't grow up with the Beatles.
Not one bit.
Just for example, and I'm going to use this because you use it all the time. When you heard "Got to Get You Into My Life," what version did you hear?
Oh, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Of course.
Right, and for me, it's all Beatles all the time. When I heard "We Can Work It Out," it was the Beatles.
Stevie Wonder.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, for me to say that a Diana Ross and the Supreme song is the number one song of the '60s over all of those Beatles songs,
That's
a powerful
profound
statement.
Yeah, truth.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's interesting, because we brought up the Beatles, I'm a big Elvis fan too. Right? I like Elvis too. The Supremes, the number one girl group of the 60s, 12 number one hits. Okay. The Beatles, 20 number one hits. And Elvis, 17 number one hits.
Wow.
All had their last number one hit on the charts within a year of each other. All of them. They all ended their reign on top of the charts
Nice.
around the same time.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I learned that in high school. So for me, I first heard this song on the oldies radio stations. I wasn't listening to it in my household. My parents weren't listening to this. I wasn't listening to oldies radio stations till I got into high school and kind of discovered all of this old music.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I heard the song, I was like, oh my God, that's one of the prettiest songs I've ever heard. But it wasn't until I lived life
that it made sense.
yeah, and that you lose people along the way.
Yeah.
You re-engage with people along the way, right?
Yep.
And then they disappear. And then there's always a little bit of hope where you grow up. You just go through these experiences, these life experiences where you're like, oh, this is a powerful song. This is what they were talking about, right?
Yeah. So I was exposed to this song at home. We had the 45.
Oh, man. Do you still have it? Because I helped you clean out Mama's garage. So if it's there, I'm going to go pay a visit. It's going to disappear.
It's coming back home because my sister, who's a kleptomaniac, she lifted them when she moved out. So it'll be back into the summer.
But y'all aren't going to have it for long because I'm taking it. I'm just letting you know.
But that's how I was exposed to this song. As a little boy, popping it on the player and hearing it. And as I want to say it was second grade when the concept of the lyrics, when the words began to make sense and it began to register in my head, and the gravity of this song actually hit me.
It's really powerful for being 7 years old, man.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's the crazy thing because I remember second grade.
Well, I think what you remember is that feeling that these instruments give you. Those strings, when those strings come in, instantly recognizable.
See, yep. And
when that little guitar comes in.
Yeah, which always grabs me every time I hear guitar. Has always done that, yeah. All three of them.
Then the Funk Brothers with the bass line, it's all coming in. And that music grabs you, like you said, by the heartstrings.
Yeah.
Before Diana Ross even says a word.
Yeah.
And that's the power of the song, right? It's in the music before this. This song could be, we're never going to be together ever because I hate your guts. And that music's still going to grab you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this is a perfect arrangement.
Right. And I think that's the power. And you brought this up. And you said that the Funk Brothers have played on more number one hits than any other musicians.
Yeah, than any group in the world.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's because of the Supremes.
Yeah,
Did they do the Jackson 5?
Every act that came through Motown while Motown was in Detroit. So from Motown's creation, when they moved to LA, I think it was like in the 70s.
Okay.
But pretty much every hit that came out of Motown, that was the Funk Brothers. They were the studio
Right.
band.
I mean, that's Four Tops, Temptations,
Smokey,
Stevie,
Stevie.
Marvin Gaye, and
Yes.
Tammy Terrell.
Everything.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes sense. And the Funk Brothers had a little bit of help with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
On this one, yep.
So but that's kind of what gives this song its kind of zest, is that string arrangement along with that groove.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting since you mentioned about being a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
And that's what George Martin brought to them during this same time frame. The introduction of strings to their
That's
music
absolutely true.
and how it was a game changer for both of these groups, if you will.
Well, it was a game changer for them a little too late, because this is the last song they ever recorded. Whereas the Beatles, George Martin kind of expanded their horizons in the studio in the middle of their run, of the Beatles run. What's crazy is you and I have just talked about how perfect this song is, how powerful this song is. This song, which is a cover song, by the way, almost... Oh, what was that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. This song almost didn't make it to Diana Ross's lap.
Wow.
Yeah. This song was originally supposed to be for Junior Walker and the All-Stars. And are you familiar with Junior Walker and the All-Stars?
Who are you talking to?
Shotgun.
Shotgun. And
Shotgun.
That's not Shotgun, but that's the other song.
Right.
That's this about When You Love.
So, yeah. Right. Well, Barry Gordy, at the last minute, decided to give it to Diana Ross. And it might be the greatest decision
he's ever made.
Yeah, it has to have been, right? And the male voice on the song. So when I read that about Junior Walker, I was like, oh, is that Junior Walker on the record singing with Diana? It's actually one of the co-writers, a guy named Johnny Bristol, who actually wrote songs for all of the Motown artists. He was part of that group.
Writers.
And I was kind of shocked because I'm automatically thinking Holland, Dozier Holland, right?
Yeah.
Or Smokey or someone like that. But no, it was this guy, Johnny Bristol. So I was really surprised that it wasn't written by one of the more acclaimed Motown writers. But this guy had a lot of hits, man. So prop to Johnny Bristol. And right? I thought maybe that voice, that male voice, like, oh, come on, I thought it could have been one of the Temptations, because the Supremes and the Temptations were releasing duet albums throughout the late 60s.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you this. So I like a lot of Supreme songs, but I like their singles. I'm probably one of the few humans in our age group, and I'm almost positive there aren't many of us, that have listened to every Supremes album, not single, album from the 1960s.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I maybe can name two others, and they're not even in Texas.
In our age group.
But in our
Yeah.
age group and other parts of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be honest, because I love Diana Ross's voice. I love their hits. Their albums are hits, the two or three hit songs, and filler. Nothing but filler. It's very difficult to listen to. I actually went through took me about a week to get through all of the Supremes albums. And I listened to them over again. Just say, hey, look, am I missing anything? Is there that hidden gem, right? That
catches
diamond
you like
in the rough.
Third listen.
Yeah, nothing, man. It was the reason the hits were the hits is because they were great songs. But man, trying to find diamonds in the roughs in their catalog was hard. Now, I found a bunch of Temptation songs that were never released. We talked about Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell releasing legitimately great albums, not just singles, but albums in the 60s.
Yeah, all the way through.
Supremes, not so much. However, with all that said, and I just spent a minute criticizing the Supremes, probably the greatest girl vocal band of not just the 60s, but maybe of all time. I mean, in the 1990s, I'm thinking you had what? In Vogue.
Oh, yeah.
You know, then later on you
Yep.
had Destiny's Child. In the 70s, you had LaBelle, right? I mean,
Yeah.
who else? Who else was part of that group?
Pointer Sisters.
Pointer
Sister Sledge.
Sisters, Sister Sledge. But Sister Sledge had one hit.
Yeah.
Can't compare that to this. You know, in the
But this
60s,
was-
the Marvelettes.
And this was the template, like you said.
Right.
This set the standard. The Supremes, as far as girl groups or just with groups in general, I would say the Motown machine
right.
managed to perfect itself. It worked all the kinks out, and it was with a fine-tooth comb, and the machine was running at its peak performance with the Supremes.
It was, but and we talk about this on almost every single album or record that we talk about. You have to have that person's voice, that identifiable voice, to make it special. Because there are a lot of great singers out there.
Yep.
But there's a reason why Diana Ross is, heading the marquee, right?
Yeah. Well, that says Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Because she's special, and that voice is special, and that identifiable sound is special. And so you have to have that personality up front, because Diana Ross, she's a beautiful woman, but she just looks different, right? And the big eyes and the big eyelashes, like she just looked different, right?
An exoticness to her.
I didn't want to say exotic, man.
Well, I didn't want to say different either, man.
She looks different. It's just there's something unique about
Yes,
her. Where she's
unique.
attractive,
Unique.
but you never forget her face.
Yes.
And I'm talking about 1960s Diana
Yeah.
Ross, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, we love Diana Ross. Don't get it twisted, anyone. We love Diana
But
Ross.
it's just that charisma that draws you to them. And without that, just having a great singer isn't enough. We've talked about that over and over again.
And that is, you're right. That is the common thread.
And I'm not saying that like Marvin Gaye, when we talked about Marvin Gaye, couldn't have sang great duets with people other than Tammy Terrell. But there's a reason why him and Tammy Terrell had so many hits together and had that match. It's because they had that chemistry.
Oh my goodness.
And you can't
yes.
buy that. You can't
Can't.
produce that in a studio.
It's there or it's not.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what the Supremes have. Now, for me, I already said this is the greatest song of the 60s. Remember when we talked about greatest love songs? We were talking about Cyndi Lauper last week?
Yes.
Okay. I think this might be number 2. I said Paul McCartney's maybe I'm Amazed is number 1. I think this might be the number 2 greatest love song of all time. Incidentally written the same year as Maybe I'm Amazed.
I don't even have a number 1, but I can agree. This will be the number 2. This will be my number 2.
I think so. And I think to sum this up, if there was another song that could encompass all these things we've talked about, the emotion, the feelings, hitting you in the feels, pulling on them heartstrings,
Yep.
the instruments all coming together, that symphony mixing with that guitar, that bass
Great
groove,
arrangement.
Diana Ross's voice, plus have that lasting impact that this song has had. Let's not get it twisted. This song sounds like it's from the 1960s.
Yes. It is the proud representation of the 1960s.
But for me, it still hits you as if it was written in 2020. Does that make sense to you?
The relevance of the punch.
Right, because this song could not be a hit today. It couldn't. You cannot release this song today. One, because I don't ever want to hear a cover of it. I'm sure someone's covered this song. I don't want to hear a cover.
You're right. You are correct.
Because you can't beat this arrangement.
can't.
You
Yeah.
can't beat the production. You can't beat the music. You can't beat the sound of the instruments. You can't beat Diana Ross's voice and with all those
Yeah,
elements.
and the Funk Brothers. Yeah, why would? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You wouldn't- yeah.
So
Touch it.
so you're not going to recreate this song and make it relevant. However, as it stands, I think anybody, regardless if it's someone our age, someone our kids' age, if they hear this song and they've lived a little bit of life, they're going to get the feels for the song,
it's going to grab them.
right? Would you agree with that assessment?
I 100% agree with that assessment, sir.
So before we let you guys go, I'm really curious what you think the number 1 song of the 60s is. Because for me, as a Beatles fan, I was all ready to say, "Hey Jude, wrap it up, throw it
Be
away."
done.
As a Rolling Stones fan, you could pick any number of Rolling Stones songs. Bob Dylan was in the 60s. But I really honestly think this is the number one song of the 60s. You know, it might be a Marvin Gaye or Tammy Terrell song that beats it. I wouldn't go that far, but seriously, I think this is. So if you agree, let us know in the comments. If you disagree, please let us know what you think is the number one song of the 60s. And, you know, we don't think we're always right. We just know we're right on this one. You know, and if you enjoyed today's show, we want you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let us know what you think. Anything else you want to say, Ken?
If there's another Supreme song that you like, feel free to let us know. If there's anything you know about this song that we didn't mention, enlighten us.
We always want to learn. That's true. But until next week, thank you. Bye-bye.